Hello and welcome to Frozen Synapse 2 Developer Update number 11. I'm Ian Hardingham, designer and lead programmer on Frozen Synapse 2, and today I'm going to talk you through how the contracts in Frozen Synapse 2 work. So let's go. Now, broadly speaking, Frozen Synapse 2 is not a game that has scripted missions of any kind. This is not an open world game where there are 50 specifically designed levels that you trigger in various different ways, and you go and do some stuff in the open world map, and then you sort of get access to one of these levels and you go into it. So that's kind of not how this game works. This game's much more open and freeform than that, and you can basically go and do whatever you like. You can go and attack whoever you like, you can go and set up checkpoints anywhere, you can interact with the incursions as they come and attack the city, which is kind of like the central storyline, as it were, is how you deal with those things. But it's really a game about having a lot of freedom. But a game which just allows you to do anything you want without any kind of structure or pointing, I think doesn't really tend to work very well. So when I was designing Frozen Synapse 2 right at the beginning, trying to get a solution to having total freedom while also having a lot of different things that you can look at to do that are more guided, trying to solve that was quite a big deal. And I think I've solved it pretty well with the faction contracts system. So let's take a look at that. So if we go and click in the top right on the contract button, we get a list of the contracts that are currently available to us. Now, there are only two right now, this second. The parcel tossers, who are the parcel delivery company around this city, would like you to deliver something. How exciting, very gamey there. And the private police, it actually says kidnap someone, but what they mean is arrest someone. They have a person who is evading the law, and the private police would like you to go and attack them. So far, so gamey. I like to think that this specific thing is a little bit more elite than it is Far Cry 3, but you can see that we have a couple of sort of more civilian neutral factions that give you some kind of safer jobs that you can do for a bit of money. Again, it's just very standardly game-wise, and that's not really what I'm here to talk about today. I'm here to talk about the jobs that the factions themselves give you based on what they want to do in the city. So here we have the list of the factions, and each of these factions exist as a kind of fully formed agent within the world. They have desires and plans, everything that they want to do around the city, and especially the military factions, which are broadly speaking the sort of top 6 or 7 on this list. Especially those guys, they're doing the same kind of thing that a player might do in this kind of game. So for instance, if we focus on Blue Sunlight, one of the military factions, who actually is sort of they're kind of religious cultists who are in support of the invading incursioning AI. Now these guys, just like as would be standard for a game like this, they have a lot of things that they want to do. They want to defend their own buildings, they want to attack their enemies' buildings, they want to, say, assassinate a high-up member of one of their opponents. When there's something valuable being transported across the city, so for instance, if you get one of the artifacts that you can farm from the incursioning force, if you have something going on like that, these guys may want to try and capture it, or may want to try to get the faction who has it to give it to them. Now, so far so relatively normal, but what happens is in Frozen Synapse 2 is that anything that an AI faction wants to do but does not currently have the resources to do, so for instance they may have their 2 strike teams going to do something important to do with incursions or guarding a couple of their buildings. When they don't have enough resources to do something they want to do themselves, they basically put it out as a contract. It's completely dynamic, and it just depends on anything that they want to do that they can't fulfill themselves at that right time. Now, as we can see from the empty contracts window, even though all of these contracts exist, they are not available to just anyone. You have to get a certain level of trust with a faction before they're going to offer you their jobs. So if I call up Mr. Brack, who's going to talk quite a lot of nonsense to me right now, he's going to offer me to sign a treaty of mutual interest. Again, this is all very work in progress, won't be worded like this, and I say yes. So now, because I'm new to the world, and because I haven't made a treaty with anyone else, he has offered me a treaty. And if I now look at the jobs board, I suddenly have access to the first level of contracts that he has available. So these are pretty easy. He has an enemy at the moment, Fortune's Glaive, and Fortune's Glaive have 4 sort of relatively undefended buildings that Blue Sunlight would like us to go and attack. If left to his own devices, he will attack these buildings on his own. If I was to go into the development menu and give him 6 more strike teams, he would actually go off attacking these buildings on his own with those strike teams, and these jobs would disappear. But that's not what's going on right now. He only has a couple, and they're available. They're doing something somewhere else. So right now, I have another load of options. I can go and attack any one of these buildings. There are lots of different kinds of contracts that come up at any given time. It's not just attacking people. He can want me to defend certain areas, set up checkpoints, search places, go and research things. There's quite a lot of stuff that can go on there. One of the really nice things about the system is as you complete contracts for a faction, their trust in you increases, and it unlocks further on levels of stuff they can ask you to do. So they may actually start asking me to defend their own buildings when they have a high level of trust with me, or to transport stuff for them. And that's just something that happens really organically. And again, even though it functions a bit like a sort of the guild quest lines in the Elder Scrolls games, sort of functionally, it really doesn't come from that direction. Again, it's not a bunch of scripted missions, it's just stuff that these guys want to do on the city. I'm quite proud of this stuff. It makes me really happy as a player to think that it's all so dynamic and procedurally coming from stuff. So that's a rather long and probably slightly boring explanation of what's going on with the system. And now I'm going to show you how an individual contract works, and look for some feedback on the level of automation that I have in. Okay, so I'm just going to take this incredibly boring deliver item mission, and I'm going to accept it. If I wanted to go into more detail, I could try and see where I need to pick this thing up from, where I need to take it to. If it was to one of my enemies I need to take it to, that might not work. But we won't go into that detail right now. We're just going to accept the contract. What I really want to talk about here, and again, something that I'm kind of looking for feedback on, is I'm really, really, really eager that this is not a difficult game to play. There's been a couple of comments on some of the older videos from people who are very concerned about how much stuff is going on at the city level, and how that's not necessarily what they want to be doing in this game. I mean, it's important to just say that this is a game about doing lots of stuff on the city level, as well as playing a lot of really good emergent Frozen Synapse missions. So to a certain extent, that is what the game is. But I certainly want to be able to play this game by sort of playing relatively on autopilot, making a couple of decisions about what kind of contract I might want to go for, what kind of people I might want to attack, what kind of things I want to do, but not have to be lost and spend 10 hours learning the game before I'm able to do what I want to do. So that's just exactly the kind of thing I would never want to put you in a situation as a player of being in that situation. So these contracts, dynamic as they are, give you quite a lot of hand-holding of how to do them in a very sort of automatic way, if that's what you want to do. If you want to work out exactly what route you want to take to pick up this item, and if you want to set up a lot of different elements, you can do that because the freedom is there. This is just about giving you a kind of a very easy way of clicking through the mission, so you don't have to engage your brain too much to get to the action, shall we say. Now, there's not going to be a lot of action on this particular deliver item mission, but it's all about the city stuff on this video, so that's what we're going to do. So we have a little action token saying that Blue Sunlight has changed diplomatic relationship with you to treaty. That's a bit clunky. I don't think we're going to be keeping that kind of language or that kind of notification. That's not, in fact, even really how the AIs relate to you anymore. They have sort of a general opinion of you. They have an understanding of whether you are militaristically stronger, much stronger, less strong, the same as you, and they also have an understanding of your general actions and where you are sort of morally based on the things that they care about. They put all of those different factors into a box, and out comes a mood that they're in. Are they angry with you? Are they feeling professional towards you? Are they feeling magnanimous? And that mood is kind of guides what they do. Anyway, so we'll just dismissed that one. We also have a call from the Blue Sunlight guy, and he can discuss in more detail. Actually, not the Blue Sunlight guy. I'm sorry. From the Parcel Tossers guy, and he can discuss in detail this terribly complicated item delivery mission. We're not going to do that either. Anyway, the most important one here is the contract update. So immediately we've accepted this contract, and I'm trying to imagine being a new player, and I'm just want to give them the option of just basically clicking on buttons and seeing the contract go forward. So the next thing I need to do is send a squad to pick up the item. So I send squad and I choose my strike team. And it says we have launched operation to the prison. We can click on edit and change the route they're taking, stuff like that, but you don't have to do that. And we can zoom to see that this is where we are, and we are going to here, this prison. We are picking up something from this prison. So now if I just press play, I will see my guys. Well, okay, so immediately we're stopped for something supposedly important. A Sonata incursion has landed. We're going to ignore that for now because that's not widgeted in. So we press play again, and we're going to see our strike team moving its way across the city. Lots of other people are doing something. They're probably more excited about the incursion than I am right now. So again, I really have chosen like the most boring mission, but something about me finds that amusing. So here we go. We have arrived, and we are immediately, the time is stopped, and we're given a big red action token telling us that we need to do something. So we click on give orders, and we can do lots of different things now, by the way. We could just decide to attack the prison if we want. We could just start trolling them, but we will in fact pick up the item. If we select my strike team, which I think I can do here, we will see that they have this package. Later on, I'll implement that if it's a particularly interesting thing, we might get hijacked for it, that kind of stuff. But right now, we won't actually be bothered. And the next thing we need to do is send the squad to the location. And we just click that button, and we have given them the the mission, basically, to go to where they need to pick up this thing. We've stopped because we have a call from the assistant giving you some tutorial stuff. We're just going to ignore that, and I'm going to select something so I'm not going on with the strike team. So once again, on this absolutely thrilling mission, we are seeing our guys go to an airport. Awesome, they're taking something from the prison to the airport. I wonder what that could be. So they get there, and we give orders, and we can drop off. And everything works. That's pretty amazing. So we have finished that contract. We've been paid some money. And ignore that thing. That's a bug. And we can just send our guys back to base. So I don't know how boring that was to watch, but actually I'm really looking for some feedback for you guys on that process. At any time during that whole mission, you can go off script. You can steal the package. Of course, it has some value. And that will really, really annoy the parcel guys and get you in trouble with them. You could, if I make it into a specific kind of thing that you're delivering, you could go and give it to someone else, make them happy with you. And of course, you could keep it. You could use the fact that you have permission to enter the prison to pick this item up will actually mean that if you do attack the prison, you get to start in a more advantageous position. So that shows you that why even a little mission that actually has no action whatsoever, and of course most of these missions would have a kind of Frozen Synapse actual combat mission at some point involved. This one doesn't actually have it, but you can go to a lot of different places with these. You can use these contracts as ways to subvert the systems. Anyway, after all that nonsense, what I really want to hear about from you guys is what you think about the interface of having given you that pretty easy automation. If you want to just sort of click through these contracts and get your money and see these things happen. So you have this massively complicated city layer, but if what you want to do is make a couple of decisions and play Frozen Synapse levels, that's what you can do. So I'm really trying to have my cake and eat it with this, give this incredible complexity that you can interact with, but also give you something simpler if that's what you want. And I really want to hear what you guys think about that. So leave me comments, don't swear if you possibly can help it. And next week, maybe I will show you some of the more exciting missions, not just delivering items. So thanks for listening to that bit. We're just going to get on to some of your comments on last week's video and then signing off. Okay, so on to your mail. Max Gear, who I read a comment from last week about the ground floor nature of the maps, comes on, and he's very nice, and he has asked me about what I mean by mercenaries. So when we look at your squads, and let's say we go to the mercenary market, and we can see here that we can hire mercenaries with various different weapons. What happens when you hire a mercenary is that you actually buy the rights to clone that mercenary. VAT forms in Frozen Synapse are relatively expendable and can be regrown in the matter of about 12 in-game hours. So the idea is that you actually have a human being behind these sort of expendable units, and that those human beings can have personalities and backstories, and maybe they'll only agree to sign with you if you are friends with a certain faction, or if you've managed to do something particularly impressive on the map. So there's that depth there. So it's a bit of a strange combination of things, but we just thought it was really cool to have these cool mercenaries, but also you can assign the rights to clone them. So we liked that, and that's the background to that, basically. Now, several people have asked, after I revealed last week, that you, the player, will have an in-game agent who basically sits at your base, unless you're really ballsy, and if he gets killed, you lose the game straight away. They've asked whether you will have a weapon, and yeah, I can exclusively reveal that you will have a weapon. I was talking to Paul today about what weapon we should give you. He thinks a pistol is a really good idea, give you a fairly bad weapon. Maybe you could get it upgraded, a sort of a special gift from another faction lead or something fun like that. But yeah, you will be able to go and sort of incompetently shoot people. So that's good. We also discussed the idea that if you get your agent in the game to leave your base, that would actually turn on Iron Man mode as well, so that you wouldn't even be able to reload if you did that and then die. That may be too hardcore of a way to enable Iron Man mode, but just like a fun idea. Some guy asks, if we destroy buildings with rocket launchers, do they get rebuilt next time there's a mission in that building? That's a really great question. I have not totally decided on that. It's not a technical problem. We can do that. I'm slightly concerned about what it would be like if you blow up the entire place and then there's a mission there, but it may just transform into a ruined building which isn't used for anything else. So I'm going to go tentatively yes. It's actually like a really big deal if you blow up bits of a building with a rocket launcher. That makes the owners of the building pretty unhappy with you. And I just think that that's something that should persist if it can work mechanically, if that makes sense. So I'm definitely going to try and do that. We have AHV has suggested we add a stun, grenade, or flashbang type unit to the game. It's a really good idea. I have actually played with a flashbang unit in the past. It works quite well. The only problem is that you have to get the timing really closely correct to obviously have the flash happen while none of your units are within range of it. And that can tend to lead to some of the most irritating kinds of Frozen Synapse gameplay. Whenever you're adding something, you have to be aware if it's forcing people to play in a really irritating way. So it's definitely not completely off the table. But that's why it's not in yet. So we'll keep on looking at it. So that's the end of your mail. Thanks again for all the feedback. Please leave me specific feedback on this. Again, really cool to have negative feedback. Totally good. And I love getting positive feedback as well. Thanks for listening to me blather on. And I'll see you next week.